Hello, everyone. Yeah, good evening. And I think we've still got many colleagues who are going to trickle in while we have this session. But we have to start and we have to let our guests go after an hour because she's also got a very busy schedule ahead of her. So to everyone, good evening. And it's a pleasure to have you all on board. Thank you for making the time to be with us. And I am Sushila Chang, the global lead for leadership and humanity, and I'm actually based in Brisbane, Australia. I would like to, before I introduce anyone else, introduce my colleagues to you. We have with me Sophia. I think you can look for her when on your panel and see who she is. We have Irish, who's the IT viz. We have Konchok, who's in Ladakh at the moment. So Sophia and Irish are actually sited in the Philippines. Konchok and Deshen are in Ladakh. It's a principality next to India, actually. So that's where we are. And I think you all come from many countries as well. But again, warm welcome to all of you. And today's session is very special and very special to me, especially because it's someone I know very well. But before I go into that, let me just tell you a little bit more about leadership and humanity in case you don't know about it. Today is our second dialogue session for 2023. We normally have one every 2 months. Okay, so look out for the next one sometime in July. And LEH was started by Atul Khosla. Many of you may know him. And he was from Mondelez and prior to that from Novartis. And he's been having a very important HR global role in all these companies, actually. And Atul, just like all of us, realized that at the end of the day, the leaders make the culture of an organization. An organization can be very human or very inhuman. And that actually shows in the morale of the organization as well. And honestly, it's the leadership which sets it all. So Atul founded LEH 2 years ago. And LEH has got several flagship programs, if I may call that. One is this dialogue session that we have every 2 months or so. We invite speakers who we know of and who we know are excellent leaders in their own right, and interview them and share their thoughts. They come here to share their thoughts with you. We also have the open mentoring program, which is running in its third cycle at the moment. We have already had about 200 mentees who have gone through this program. And this program is for mentees who in their own right will not be able to assess mentors. Everything that we do here, the mentee program dialogues, is all free because that's what LEH is about, okay? So for the mentoring program, we have a database of about 50 to 100 mentors, and they're all from professionals from industry, government, academia, and they come on board and are outstanding mentors to our mentees. So we thank them all for all the time that they've put in. We also have the LEH journey, which if you look at our website, it spells out clearly what it is. And the LEH journey, again, is outstanding. It's a 4-month kind of a program, but there is an experiential part to it. And the experiential parts have normally been in Ladakh, in Leh, in Ladakh in the past, but our next one will be in Siem Reap in Cambodia. And in this, the one in Siem Reap in Cambodia is going to be organized. It's a collaboration between LEH and Catapult. Now, Catapult is the education arm, I would call that, of a very big real estate company in Singapore, which is actually based in Singapore, and the company is called Capital Land. And Catapult is about, training leaders into executive leadership programs in a very well thought of and well planned space in Singapore. So Catapult and LEH are joining hands to bring the LEH journey to Siem Reap in Cambodia. So watch out for that space. And if you're interested, you know what to do as well. Besides that, we also have some education modules that we actually share with universities, schools, higher education organizations, and also schools. It's a couple of 12 modules which talks about values, humanity, and how we can apply this in our daily life. So we have all these programs that are building up. At the same time, we also have lots of companies which are now knocking on LEH's door for LEH to organize, leadership programs for them using the basis that LEH is from. Okay, now that is about LEH. Now I want to focus on our speaker. And our speaker today is someone, as I said, whom I have a lot of time for, someone whom I've known for a while, and her name is Linda Lua, Professor Linda Lua. And I think she's one of the youngest professors ever to have been, perhaps in Australia. She's also a very well-known scientist. Each time we have an infectious outbreak in Australia, Linda will be interviewed because she's an expert in protein technology. And she actually comes up with all sorts of formats, formulations, whatever, of proteins, for vaccines and so on. So Linda is highly accomplished in her own way. I got to know her when she was 17 years old. Now, that was just a few weeks ago, as I would like to say, but it's really not. At that time, Linda was a young student in Singapore. I was her lecturer. And then, I don't know who moved first, but maybe both of us moved to Australia, to the same university. And then again, we were there, and she was one of the students. And I know she did brilliantly. She got a first-class honors in biotechnology, and it was not an easy feat. And then she got a scholarship to do her PhD. And then the university kept her. They didn't let her go. They kept her, and she ran a little, well, not so little kind of entity in protein expression. And that entity grew and grew. It's like a microorganism. It just multiplied and multiplied and became a huge center and like an institute. And that entity is very well known in Australia, in the Asia Pacific, for production of proteins. And Linda heads that. Well, what I know more about her is from her staff, who actually were also some of my students. They tell me she's an outstanding leader. She has mentored them. She has taught them how to be strategic. She has taught them how to be good colleagues and good leaders. And I am truly, truly very, very delighted to hear that, because Linda is special in that sense. I also know of Linda because she started an orphanage in Thailand, and she shared that with me. And I was wondering to myself, what on earth is she doing all this? But she did. And that was about 18, 19 years ago. And then she's now moved on. So I would like to introduce you to Professor Linda Lua, probably one of the youngest professors ever in the scientific field in Australia, and also now Emeritus Professor, because she's gone on to find her own company to do the things that she wants to do. Linda, tell me, in all these things, when you look back, is there anything you wish you had not, you had done, actually, which you have not done?
First up, I want to take the opportunity to just thank, LEH, as well as, Sushila, you and Atu, for inviting me to be on board and to have this conversation and dialogue. And also, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the audience and participants. Thank you for coming onto these conversations. I know that some of you are at different parts of the world. It could be 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. for you, whereas some, it could be really late. And I appreciate you giving your time, because I know that that's usually the most valuable commodity to all of us. So thank you for being here. And I, hope that, we can share our learning together and learn off each other. And Sushila, thank you for reminding me that I was once, 17. And thank you for that kind introduction. I'm very flattered and also very humbled by, the many things that you say and share. And essentially, I think you have really good memories. You outlined it very accurately, clearly through. I have to make it clear to everybody, I did not write any of this for Sushila. I think she really remembered them. So, all to you, Sushila. So a little bit would be, yes, I was born in Singapore, grew up in Singapore, educated in Singapore. And I grew up in a really big family, although I was the only child. My parents were really young then, especially my mom. She was really young when she had me, and was really great that my grandma could, look after me. So I grew up in an extended family in that sense, where my grandparents have 10 children, so 6 boys and 4 girls. And if you can imagine, that's a really big family in those days. They were all more like my, sisters and brothers, although they're my aunts and uncle. And I say that because I actually learned a lot, while growing up and spending time with them. And then I decided, to take the journey to go to a polytechnic to do biotech, although I was advised against it. And I think Sushila can understand this is, in Singapore, there's certain expectations, right? And, the expectation in terms of, a conventional way of going through your education. Most people will finish their secondary school, they go on to do what we call junior college, then they go to university. But I do remember clearly that in my last year of my secondary school, which I was 16, I knew I wanted to do biotech. And at that time, I think biotech was quite new in Singapore. But I was set, in terms of I want to do biotech. I did go against, my parents' wishes, if you say so, in terms of, the way that, for more traditional, I guess, Asian family would be like you want to grow up, find a stable job, secure in the sense, maybe being, doing administrations, that would be, pretty good. So they didn't quite understand why I wanted to pursue a career in biotech. But for me, I really wanted to be able to harness the science and, use that, apply that, and see, how that can benefit, humanity. And then I came to Australia, as Sushila has mentioned. I did my PhD, and then I was offered a scholarship, a fellowship in that sense, and I stayed on. Then the next part of it was really interesting because I was given an opportunity to found the facility known as the Protein Expression Facility, which, if you think about it, is like a contract research organization entity embedded in a university. At that time, many people have said to me that, you're probably making the wrong decision to make that shift and that move because it's not the conventional academic pathway. And if I were to decide to go out and start a facility and run a facility, it's usually seen as I must be not a good scientist. I didn't make it as a scientist, and therefore you decided to take the road to set up a facility and make it as a service. My mentor, supervisors, or pretty much advise against it. And I have to say, maybe because I was young, I was naive, I decided that, we haven't tried. Why? How do we know that's not going to be successful? And in my mind is, I knew that, through the facility, I could help people in their research. And in that way, I could actually help them accelerate what they want to achieve in research and move forward as fast as possible, rather than focusing on just, my own research area. So over the years, I pour quite a lot of work into that. But I was really young then. I was only, no, I wouldn't say my age. I was young. I only had 2.5 years or so of postdoc experience. And I must say, what do I know in terms of leading people? What do I know in terms of, leadership or, people development, organizational culture, building a team? Nothing, I knew a little bit, very little, but not a lot. So that time I was very hungry in terms of learning and having to learn a lot of it myself. So it starts to show you my age when I say we didn't have a blog or website then where you can read or, podcasts to listen to. So those are the times that you actually have to go and read books. So, I had to actually do a lot of the self-learning about leadership, building teams, how to set, good team culture. And I did all of that because I knew that, I could not achieve what I want to achieve, alone. And it's always better, to be on a journey, with a team of people who have, share the common goals and passions in terms of enabling others to achieve what they want to achieve in research. So that was what happened when I was doing, I was setting up the contract research organization. Then the last role was then over time I realized that I'm really passionate about helping people in terms of developing them as leaders. And I took out a role at the university where I was looking at implementing development opportunities across the whole university, and that gave me, I think, a lot of a buzz and energy. So because of that, I decided then I want to step out of the university, and I started as Sushila mentioned, my own coaching and consulting company called the Growth Impact, where then now I can actually help organizations and individuals grow and develop themselves. The mantra is grow to lead, to give, which I believe it's just intentionally growing ourselves so that we can lead better, and then also we can give back to the society and to the community. So I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Linda. I think you actually answered my first question as well. If you look back, this is a very short question. Was there anything that you would have done differently?
People have asked me that question a lot, like, is there anything I would have done differently? I would say that, I don't think there's things that I would have done differently. Reason being that, I do believe that, all the goods and all the bads, there's a reason why they're there. There's a purpose to, and there are learning opportunities. The way I look at them is, they allow me to learn and develop and grow. And from there on, I can reflect upon it and then do better the next time. And if you would say, like, if I could do better, what would I do better in? Mm-hmm. I would say, looking back, if I would be able to acquire, a lot of the people development skills a lot earlier, I think that would really help me. But at the same time, then when I reflected upon it is, sometimes you do have to live through the experience, to gain those, capabilities and abilities. So, yeah.
So just reading is not good enough. You have to experience it through and through to realize what it is and to get the answers you want, I suppose. That's true.
Yeah.
So with all the things that you did, Linda, you also set up that orphanage in Thailand. What was that? What motivated you to do that, actually?
So I guess it's a little bit to do, a couple of reasons. One of it is a bit to do with my own background. So I grew up in a very simple and humble environment. Like I say, my grandma has 10 kids to look after, plus me. So that's plus me, 11 of us. I'm the first of the generation, which, I'm very thankful. But at that time, also, we don't have a lot spare in that sense, we're comfortable in a sense of, we do have sufficient, but we have to be very careful. So, to put it simply is, we do ration in terms of, what we have, how we spend what we have. And I also do remember that when I was really young, I was told that, they didn't have enough to buy, milk powder for me when I was a baby. So growing up in that environment, like, I was very well looked after, I was very well loved. But I do then look back and go that, I was very fortunate to grow up in an environment, even though we have very little, but we make the most of it. My family, really loves me and, look after me. But I know there are a lot of children out there that, not only they don't have much in terms of, whether it's food or opportunities to education, they actually don't have a family. that's looking after them, protecting them, giving them an environment to grow, to thrive. So then that sort of, got me going in terms of working with, a family that's based in Thailand. We got to know them, and they, so this family, this couple, they were starting to accept, children, or taking in children from the streets or from for social center, because they were disadvantaged or abandoned or orphaned. So we were supporting them initially, but it got to the point where we say that we got to do more than just feeding the children. We got to do something in terms of what can we do to help break the poverty cycle. And a few of us got together, and we do believe that education is one way that we can help break the poverty cycle. And so we end up with a group of 13 children to start off with, and we wanted it to be more like a family-run children home. So we don't often call it an orphanage; we call it a family home, because they do have if you want, you can say like a foster family in that sense. A mom and a dad, sisters and brothers. So they treat each other like sisters and brothers. And what we did was, we put them through education. Give them really good education, and I think that just help us to be able to, I guess, rescue them from really difficult situation, which some of them was quite traumatized when they were really young. Yeah.
Thank you. That must have been very difficult, actually, but thank you for sharing that with us. We are doing this mentoring program. And I understand that people do face a lot of personal and professional challenges during their lifetime. So in the sense that you have worked with so many young people, what is your advice for those facing such challenges? What should they do? Shout back at their bosses, or, just bite their tongue and keep quiet, or what is it actually? This is something, we hear about this in the news all the time, people being unhappy at workplace, or or facing personal challenges, toxic environment they call it, and this and that. What is your suggestion, Linda?
So if we look at this, right, it can be personal life challenges. It can also be workplace challenges. But at the end of the day, we know, right, as much as we try to tell people that, as much as we ourselves try to do that, we go as a package, we go as a person, as a whole person, right? And it's not possible to tell people like, put your life one side when you go to work, just be professional. At the end of it, we got to care for the person, right? They come as a person. So with situation like that, whether is it, challenges they're facing outside of work, or challenges, they're facing at work, one thing I've said to people is always surround yourself, with positive people. Surround yourself with, people that's going to energize you, that's going to support you. We don't need a huge group of, friends or colleagues in that sense, but, you want to make sure that, you have a few good, really good friends and good colleagues that can, come around you and support you, people who you can, talk things through. Because a lot of times we play things in our head, and we play over again and again. But then actually when we're able to just, talk to people about it, and, just when people ask a certain question, share about their perspective, it does help us to see things a little bit differently. And it's also good to have that kind of support. I think it's absolutely important and critical for any leaders who, has a team at an organization, to watch out for this too, and to watch out for the well-being of their staff, the team members, as well as create the environment where people can come and be who they are. I mean, the last thing we want is to have people who come to work and go like, okay, I'm not comfortable enough to be who I am or to be authentic. I can't share with my colleagues or share with my boss, or my supervisor or manager that these are the challenges I'm going through. So I think as leader, we have that responsibility to create that culture and environment such that, you know, people can really, you know, be authentic and share about the challenges, and we support them.
Thank you. So, I mean, having said that, there are still, you know, many environments where people find the leadership difficult. So just a question, an organization which is well run, you know, well run as happy environment, people are doing their maximum, what kind of leader will be at the helm, in your opinion? So in other words, what makes a good leader, in your opinion?
In my opinion, what makes a good leader is the leader has to be human. Because at the end of the day, right, we have to be authentic, and we have to be vulnerable. If we as a leader put ourselves out and say that, you know, we have no problems, we don't have any challenges in life, life is perfect, everything is fine, things are easy, then I think we portray the wrong image, as well as send out the wrong, you know, message, you know, to people. What we want is to actually be able to be open, be transparent, to share that, you know, I might not have all the answers for you, but I'm going through, you know, these challenges myself too. But maybe that's something, you know, we can work together and help each other out. I think, you know, in that way, that's also how you build really, you know, trusted, meaningful relationship with your team. So to me, it's, you know, a good leader, you know, has to be willing to open up themselves, you know, to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to share, like, you know, even their own challenges. The second thing is, you know, I truly believe in teams, working in teams, and also building teams. Really good leaders always have a very, you know, good team or teams, you know, with them and around them, where they're there not so-called to lead the team. Yes, they're leading the team, but they're also there to serve the team. I think a good leader needs to learn, you know, how to serve other people, and believe that, you know, what they do is also in service of other people, and not just about what they themselves can get out of it, but what, you know, how can we help someone to get further and get, you know, better. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's very true. Servant leadership, they say, isn't it? And in fact,
Yeah.
I think when you serve others, you get more pleasure out of it. I don't know whether you agree than when you don't.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's true, isn't it? I just want to make a point to all the participants. Please send in your questions, okay? Just drop in, you know, whatever questions you may have for Professor Linda, because we might not have time at the end. Okay? Linda, can you just share with us some of the humans that, you know or don't know, who have inspired you in some way?
I have to say, definitely my grandma has, it's a true inspiration to me, because she really lived through a really difficult time. So she was, I can't remember, was it 3 or 4 years old when, you know, we had the World War II, you know, happening in Singapore. And also it's not easy having 10 kids in those days, with a family of 10 kids. And it's not easy, you know, when things are also a little bit tough and tight, you know, in terms of resources and what's available. And also, I can say this, my uncles are not always like the, you know, best behaving boys, you know, so boys are boys. So, you know, sometimes that does make things a little bit difficult for her. But she's very giving. She always wants the best, you know, for all her children, all her daughters, you know, all her sons. She always believed, you know, they can achieve, even though other people might look down on them. She always believed, you know, they can achieve in anything they want to do, and they don't have to, you know, hold high position or, you know, or any certain type of profession. But, you know, as long as they put their heart into doing what they want to do, they, you know, she believes like, you know, they can achieve and contribute. And the other thing that she taught me was to give, you know, to give the best, whether you have a lot or you have very little, is to give your best to others. I remember as a kid, my aunt, uncle, and I, we used to get really annoyed with my grandma, because any festivals, in Singapore, she'll make all of us sit down and make all this, whether it's cookies, goodies, those special treat stuff. So all of us have to contribute in terms of making them, but she'll give the best to others. So she'll just stand, after we spend like 10 hours in the day making all of that, she'll just pick out all the best and gave it away. And then we're left with like not the best looking one, or, so stuff. And we used to get really annoyed, and we're like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Not that we have a lot, plus, why are we always giving our best away to other people? And I think now that I look back, I understand what she was trying to teach us is, always give your best. And that's something I hold on to. And that taught me to, like you say, servanthood leadership is, we're there also to serve and to help others, to give back to the community. And she definitely taught me, to do that. And it doesn't mean like, you can only give when you have a lot, but you can give, and share even if you're very little. So that stayed with me. The other thing that really stayed with me was when I was very young, I was quite a rebellious, child. So she said this to me. She said, "That's a consequence, or there are consequences to all your actions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to dictate you should do something or not do something. But I'd like you to think about, the consequences, and then you decide, do you want to do it or not? If you're happy with the consequences, go ahead and do it. If you're not happy with it, then you think about, do you want to do that?" I think that has really kept me grounded. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We have a question which is in fact maybe one question from me, because I have the privilege of being the chair, right? So and then after that, I'll open up to the floor, okay? Now, among of your many talents, is there anything that the world needs to discover? And then the last question, what are your plans for the future? Which I normally ask most of the speakers, actually. So any talents that we don't know of, Linda? One day I might watch the TV and say, oh, she's on the news again. And what is it now?
I don't know about talents. I love to cook.
Yes, you do.
And that's something I also learned from you. I can actually tell everybody. That's one thing I learned from Sushila. She's great in terms of hospitality. She taught me that too, a human that inspired me. That, I remember when I was in Polytechnic, all the lecturers were there. She would cook for all of them. And that's something I learned. So sidetrack a little bit, but, so back to the other question. Side talents. I loved gardening, and at one stage I was actually working in a plant nursery, doing a fair bit of landscaping and design landscape. And I also worked in a florist before, where I was doing floral arrangement. So I don't know, maybe that's something I might do. I love putting on, like helping people organize events. So that could be.
Could be. And your future? And we know that you have set up this company you mentioned just now, Impact Growth. So what you plan to make it a big company, conglomerate? We can all join you. Maybe, I don't know. What are your plans actually? On that.
So the Grow Impact, I set up the Grow Impact really is, as a coaching and consulting company to support, organization and individuals. So in that sense, I really wanted to help, individuals who want to intentionally grow themselves as leader, and also help organization who wants to help, develop their members, their staff members, as leaders. So it's something, which this is linked to the future, right? What am I intending to do? And there's something still, I would say, I'm still working out the details, and, happy to hear from anybody who has suggestion. What I want to do is, I want to help people to grow, daily, and I want to help people to, to be really good, excellent leaders that contribute back to the community. But I do want to bring in the other part of it, which is what I call the give side, which is, seeing how I can create opportunities for this leader to give back to the community, to have a positive impact to the community. And it doesn't have to be, in their profession or in their workplace. It can be, a cohort or a group of leaders coming together, to do a project, to give back to the community in different ways. So that's still something I'm working through.
It's a very good idea, actually. Yeah, and you probably have all the connections, so you can do that. You can get all the leaders to come together and do this. Yeah, very good. Linda, we have some questions now. We have Mohammed Ismail. He's asked, in your opinion, will the ChatGPT fad last?
Would it last? First is, I guess we have to ask that question, is it a fad, right? I think we talk about AI. Yeah, so that it's about the AI, right? Artificial intelligence. We know that, that's been around, for a long time, and it's used in different ways. And we also know that, there's power in, artificial intelligence. I think at the end of the day would be, with anything, is, how do we use it, and how do we use it for the good? Because, even for ourselves, right, we have skills and capabilities and knowledge. Is how do we use it, for the good? And I think if we invest it correctly, we probably can, use it to contribute back and make a positive impact, to areas, in the society.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question is from Jonathan Chuan. Says, hi, Linda. I love how you highlighted that being comfortable with vulnerability is a great trait for modern leaders. How do you navigate the fine balance between being vulnerable as a leader and maintaining a sense of credibility? Very good question as well.
Okay, so I think, yeah, that's true. It is true that, you have to have that balance. So, when I say being vulnerable, I don't mean like, you go to work and then what you do is having a verbal diarrhea, telling people like, oh, things are all good or things are all bad, without considering, what it is. The way I look at it is, asking myself the question, like, why am I sharing, or why am I talking about myself? Instead of listening, if I need to share, is it because I want to share with them an experience that, and say that this is what I've learned, and I'm not sure whether is it useful for you, but I just want to share with you. Maybe that's something you can take away, or sharing it in a sense to say that I might not fully understand what you're going through. I had a similar situation, but not exactly the same. So, but whether that would help for you to find comfort in. So to me, it's at the end of the day, it's asking myself the question, why am I sharing, right? In terms of coming to balancing it, where the credibility side is it goes back to it's not about trying to share all the dirty laundry or the bad stuff, for the, like I say, for the sake of just sharing without knowing why you're doing it. Because if you do that, then yes, people will ask and question, right, your credibility. And when it comes to credibility, say with your team, it's asking yourself the question, like, okay, if I share with my team that actually I don't know what's the best solution for this problem we're facing, right? Say, for example, right, we lived through COVID. I was running a team. We had a lot of challenges. I actually say to my team, like, this is a difficult time. I've not lived through it. You have not lived through it. Policy changes every minute, every day. We keep changing how we operate. We had to be, operational because of the work, the nature of the work we're doing. But I have to be very honest with them, like, I am trying my best to make the right decision, but I welcome them to contribute in helping me make those decisions, because it's possible they could be seeing things that I can't see. So in that sense, I'm making myself vulnerable to tell them that, I might not have the best solution, but it's also, inviting them, to say, like, please, if you look at this differently and you can see a better way of doing it, we want to do this as a team. Yeah.
Thank you. So about sharing experiences, making them feel comfortable, and also getting solutions from them as well. So there are many reasons for being vulnerable, which I guess has helped you, in a way to get your colleagues to gel as a team, actually. And we have another question here. This is very interesting as well. Prashant Chaya, since you're an expert on biotech and protein, okay, Linda, you're an expert, yes. Do you see any ethical challenges in lab-grown meat? That's a very good question. Do we know enough before we sell it to consumers? Okay, all right, yeah. Question that
I think this is actually a question that Sushila can answer far better than me.
No, you're the guest speaker. You will have to answer this question. I have my thoughts on this. Prashant, you can write to me and we can have a conversation on this. I'll tell you all about the regulations and so on, okay? But Linda, what do you think? You know about proteins, right? So tell us.
I will be very honest. I know about proteins. I know about making proteins, but I don't know a lot about making lab meats and all that. That's not something I've actually delved into. So I'm not going to be able to make a lot of expert comment on this. That's why I say, I think Sushila, you're able to make this comment far better. But a lot of all this, at the end of the day, I think there are a lot of regulatory approvals that people do, like companies, organizations do have to walk through. It's not something where you can just sort of approve and then commercialize and launch and bring it to the market, especially anything that's for human consumption. And I have to say, even things that's for animal consumption, it's in Australia, it's gone through a lot of it's highly regulated area. Yeah.
I think it's Prashant, just to answer your question, Linda is absolutely right. The regulations are very, very strict. So therefore, it's got to go through a lot of hoops to get there, actually, to be out in the market. And the FDA, every country has got your own regulatory, concerns and, that you have to get through, actually. So not so easy, but looking at lab-grown meat, it depends. It depends on what they use and so on. So as someone who's interested in this field, I will analyze and scrutinize all the raw materials they're using to go into that product, because it can be a lot of things. It can be natural products, it can be different things that come in. It can be proteins added to it. So I think we need to look at it and in a medium that it grows before we make any comments about that. But having said that, they all go through the same ethical clearance before the project is started. So I think regulations are very strong. Everybody feels the same way. Anything that goes into the mouth becomes very, very, very tricky. Actually, people are very concerned and there's a lot of scrutiny there. So just rest assured, I think the regulations will take care of it. The other thing that Prashant has asked is, did you face any cultural challenges when you moved to Australia? How did you overcome them?
Good question. I think, this is something Sushila and I can, sit down and have a coffee chat for a long time because, both of us moved over, to Australia. Of course, definitely there are challenges. I would say and share this. So when I first stepped into Australia in 1992, I do remember that, I was walking on the streets, that time I was here for occupational training. Basically, it's not uncommon to have abuse shouted at you that, go home, we don't want you here, etc. But I think it's quite a different world now, it is quite different, but there are still, that subtle differences and cultural differences. And this brings me back to, talking about then, inclusive leadership. So it is very important then for us, we might have experienced some of this. We know we have to work a little bit harder in terms, to get over this, culture challenges. So then, as a leader, what can we do, right, to make sure that when we have a team, how can we be more inclusive? So I'll give you an example. For example, so going back to my grandma, she taught me a lot about, respecting elders, right? You always, let the elders speak first. You speak, when you have something, you really truly, want to contribute. You don't speak just because you want to hear your own voice, and it's interesting, coming with that background and coming to Australia. And then when you're leading a team and you sit in board meetings, or you sit in, senior leaders meeting, where, basically it's a very different culture. If you don't speak at those meetings, it's deemed as you have nothing good to contribute, right? And yes, Sushila mentioned this a few times, like I look young, and I'm young in a sense that, so a lot of my colleagues, I respect them, and I tend to give them to have the opportunity to speak first. But then that itself can be a challenge for me, where people then deem it as I have nothing to contribute or nothing good to share. And I think that's something that I have to learn to overcome. But I stay true to myself and true to be, to be authentic. I usually will observe and listen, during the meeting first. And then, at times where I see that, okay, I have something, I would like to contribute, and I can make a difference with my suggestion. That's where, I will put my point forward. I will lean in and actually put my point forward. So I wouldn't step back just because of that. But at the same time, I wouldn't be just, going on talking and talking, because I want to be listening to myself, in those situations. So even that itself, those are the little things where when I had a team where there were like 11 different nationality, and so which means like everybody has slightly different cultural background, and what it is as leader, we just have to pay attention to that, to be inclusive at meetings. We make an effort, we see who's not speaking or who needs to be invited to speak. So for example, Japanese culture is you have to be invited to speak. You don't just jump in, right? So it's just being aware of some of those things and, doing that.
Thank you. I think that's very, very true. Every culture is different. And just like you, Linda, this being in a board meeting and when to say what is a good question, that one. It's a good strategy, when do you say what? Because people do make opinions for us actually at that point. But I guess as we get more confident in ourselves, we become more courageous, and we know what to say, when to say, and how to say as well, in any audience, without changing our accent. Sometimes we don't have to do that, straight.
We don't.
I like what you said, stay true to yourself. That's very, very important actually. Yeah. So as you any humans that have inspired you? You haven't really, other than the grandmother, you mentioned that. At the workplace, did you have anybody that sort of, you looked up to? You don't have to mention the names, but just anybody that you think? Or
definitely, in at workplace and all that, over times, I have different like mentors and people coming along, to support and help me. And I do think it's very important, to have good mentors. That's what I mean by having people around to surround you with people who you can share and talk to. So some really good mentors that has advised me and supported me and helped me and encouraged me to, for example, stepped up, believe in myself. I have a lot to offer. Things like that. And at the same time, I have some really good mentors who are also sponsors. So we hear a lot about, mentorship, but I think we don't hear a lot about, sponsoring people. Is so, good mentors, sometimes what they do is, they know that, okay, they might not be able to be at a certain event or functions, or they might see that maybe this is a good opportunity for you to be there. So instead, of putting themselves out there, they actually say to, other people that say, why don't you contact Linda instead? I think she would be really good, to speak on this topic. So I've been really fortunate, to have some of those, really good mentors and sponsors, that have supported me through my career, for sure. So definitely, like I say, is it's very important for us to surround ourselves with, you know, good positive influence. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's very, very true, huh? That to have these sponsors, as you call them, to sort of nominate you and give you a chance, you know. All we need is a chance, isn't it, to get there, and then after that we can do it on our own. It's true. Yeah. I have another question here from Dashan Dolma. Hello, Linda. Have there been any moments in your life that you consider turning points?
Oh, turning points, many.
Really, huh? Okay. Share a few with us, yeah.
And I was actually reflecting on this, and I realized that those key turning points are usually also my growth, you know, transition moments. You know, one of it is definitely, you know, making the decision to go against the flow, to step out and found a facility, you know, because this is really going against, you know, conventional academic career pathway. But I've never regretted that. I actually, you know, really, you know, proud that I did that, and, you know, very happy with what, you know, we achieved as a team. The second one would be, I think, when I went through, and Sushila, you know this, when I went through, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and I went through going through the full treatment. And I think I was 30 or 31, I can't remember when that happened. And I think that also, you know, was a good time for me to actually ask myself what's important, what's more important in life, what do I want to spend time on, what do I want to give back, and, you know, like to be able to not take things for granted, not take people for granted, as well as not take the time I have, you know, here for granted, to say that I need to appreciate, you know, all the time that's, you know, in front of me. I need to appreciate the people that's around me, and, you know, make the best of it. And that definitely, you know, was something that kept me very grounded. And, you know, throughout my career, there are different points where, you know, I have to make some really tough decisions, and times where, you know, we sometimes only talk about the goods, but, you know, there are also other, you know, things that are also the mistakes that we make. And I do clearly remember there was a phase and a time where I got too caught up, right, with work, and with, you know, what's happening, you know, around me, you know, at work, and trying to drive things, you know, to make things happen. And I forgot about, you know, the meaning of relationships, you know, why that's important, how that's important. Even like, you know, my family, you know, relationships at home, as well as relationship at work. And it's, you know, when things happen, that's where, you know, you get wake up call to go like, okay, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of doing this? At the end of it, what's the goal? And, you know, that could then bring me back to, okay, you know, I might want to just rethink what is more important, what's to, you know, to say no to, you know, what to say yes to. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a very good answer, actually. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Linda, I mean, what do you think is the future of education and science? You know, you are in that field. That'll be my last question to you. And sorry, let me put that question aside, okay?
Okay.
We have a question from Sheila Pangilinan. How do you manage self-care positivity as you lead your team in times of uncertainty, or for moments when you're not at your best? Happy to learn from you. Okay. That's right. A good question, that one. Yeah.
It goes back to being authentic and being vulnerable. I think it probably has come through that, you know, when I was at my previous positions, I worked very closely with my team. And what it is I often will talk to them when like things are tough and hard. So for example, I'll give you an example. So for example, you know, I encourage reflective learning. So what I did was, you know, I actually get them to, you know, do their reflection, you know, write it down and share it. And as part of that, then I have to set the example. So I also have to do my reflective learning. And what I did was I actually then send it out and share it with them. But it's those times where I take those moments, you know, to share with them, you know, the challenges I was facing, the decisions I had to make, what do I do, you know, and I find that often then, while doing that, I was able to, get a really good support, from the team, because what they're looking for is not that I must have the answer for everything, but, what they were really encouraged is like, I can be true to myself and be as human as possible. And a lot of times, as much as I've helped, them grow, like they have helped me grow to be a better person, to be a better leader too. And I think the beauty of then going through the uncertainty and uncertain times, with a team, make a big difference. And in terms of how do I manage self-care, I think I'm not a big fan of social media, so I think Sushila knows this. I don't have Facebook, I don't have Instagram, etc. And I do believe, we are bombarded a lot of times with very negative, news and negative, information out there. And what I do is intentionally make sure that I'm not exposing myself to that all the time. So, I ask myself is how can I use my time and how do I want to use it to, whether is it add value to myself, add value to people. And that sense is then, surround myself with positive people. And at the same time, also ask myself, what can I do, to support somebody? Because I know that when I'm doing that, helping other people, that itself, will help me too. And, make me a better and a happier person. Not sure whether that fully answered that question.
But I also know that you cycle miles every day, or you used to cycle miles and miles and miles, like 50 kilometers a day or something like that. I don't know. I was very impressed. But yeah, so Linda, that was amazing. You shared very, as you said many times, true to yourself kind of as seance you have given us by sharing, your internal thoughts with us, which we truly appreciate. Thank you very, very much for that. And I think you have gone through your leadership, very intensely, that a lot of things there that maybe some people don't even realize actually, walking through it. So you're truly quite authentic in that sense. So thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for being here. And I think many of us will probably be in touch with you, Linda, about, your leadership voyage and journey, and also perhaps for ourselves, in the area of leadership, self-care, humanity, and many other things. So thank you for that. But at this point, I'd like to call my colleague Konchok, whether he could also give a word of thanks from LEH, and also about this survey poll that we have, Konchok, if you don't mind. But Linda, thank you again. I wonder if all of us could give her a round of applause. I always do this, but sometimes I forget. If you can.
Thank you, Sushila. Thank you again,
yeah.
LEH, for having
all right, okay, all right. Thank you so much, Linda. Yeah, Konchok, please.
Okay. So yeah, first of all, before I go to my thank you note, I would like to request all the participants to respond to the poll that we have. Usually we do our registration on the Google form. This time we did try on the Zoom registration. So we wanted to know your experience for, to improve our registration for the next time. So please do respond to our poll. So yeah, and I would like to say heartfelt gratitude and thank you to Professor Linda Lua from LEH team, for accepting our kind invitation. And it was a great talk that really inspired all of us and bringing lots of enriching experience that you have in your life. And it was really, really motivating for every one of us, especially definitely for myself as well. And I also wanted to say that you have touched lots of topics, be it your personal life from since your childhood time, and also, your experience in the work life, and, being as an expert in the protein biotechnology. So it was really enriching for all of us. So I really would like to say thank you for Professor Linda Lua. And I also want to say thank you to all the participants for giving your time to, grace our guest, Professor Linda Lua. And I also want to say thank you to Sushila Chang for conducting this event. And I also wanted to say thank you to all my colleagues and team to make it happen, and we all had a wonderful session. So thank you everyone for being here with us for the ALH, being here with us with the ALH team. We really appreciate your time. So thank you
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you, Konchok. And Linda,
Thank
you've got
you.
a lot of accolades there. Everyone is saying it's a very good session. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for being here with us. Lovely to meet you all and truly delighted to be with the LEH family again. And we hope to see you very, very soon. Thank you, everyone. Okay, good night from
Thank
me.
you, everyone.
And good morning to
Good
the rest of
night.
you. And take care. Keep safe. Konchok,
Have
thank
a
you
good
very much.
day.
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Linda.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey.